Good afternoon. A really warm welcome to you all. Thank you for coming here today. My name is Lord Patel, and as you're aware, I was appointed as chair of Yorkshire County Cricket Club on Friday, one Friday night, 5th of November. I'd like to make an opening statement as I take on this role position before opening the floor up to some questions. I've been appointed with a clear remit of righting the wrongs of the past and making sure that this club is an inclusive home for aspiring players in the future. The revelations about complaints of racial discrimination and their handling at this cricket club over the past 18 months have rocked the sporting world. But let me be clear from the outset, racism or any form of discrimination is not banter. It's simply not acceptable. My heart goes out to anyone who has experienced racism or discrimination or abuse of any kind. This has been a painful and difficult period for Yorkshire County Cricket Club and all those associated with it. I thank Azeem Rafiq for his bravery in speaking out. Azeem is a whistleblower and should be praised as such, and he should never have been put through this. And I'd like to apologise to him. We're sorry for what you and your family experienced and the way in which we've handled this. What happened to you must never happen again to anyone. As an outsider coming into this situation, it's clear to me that we've handled this issue badly and the investigation was flawed. We need to learn from our mistakes and ensure the right people in place and ensure we do better. Not only in terms of the root issues of racism or discrimination, but also how as a club we deal with any issues that arise going forward. Clearly there's a problem, and I've been appointed to see if this club is institutionally racist and how we can address that. Part of my role will be to examine and be clear about what errors have been made in the handling of Azeem Rafiq's complaints, both in terms of the investigation and the actions required following it, and how we can learn from them. Another part of my role will be to examine the report which looks at several specific instances of alleged racism, but for me, not necessarily the totality of the issue. And I'm determined to look at the pattern of behaviours which could suggest institutional racism within the club, how this manifests itself and what we can do about it. But clearly this is a complex issue, a complex situation, and it won't be easy. While some strides have been made in the area of racism across the world of sports, this episode highlights the huge amount of work that still needs to be done. There's a clear need for an urgent and seismic change, starting from within. And I'm determined to lead this club to a better and more positive future. I maybe should just say a few words about myself. I'm a proud Yorkshireman, growing up in Bradford, having left Kenya with my family at the age of 1. And I've experienced racial abuse throughout my life. And some of my earliest childhood memories are of overt and painful racism. It's an experience that I think I've shared with a few of you in the past before. When I was a child, I was a really fast runner. A bit slimmer than I am now. Why was I a really fast runner? Because almost every other weekend, or every weekend, a local group of skinheads would like to go out and engage in packy bashing. You had to run or you got beaten up. So it's fairly obvious that words like packy in any context can never be banter. Actually, cricket saved me. I was a pretty tiny little scrawny kid, but I became the captain of the school cricket team, and that gave me a different standing. I didn't get beaten up anymore. And thanks to my PE teacher, I went up to play in the Bradford League and other leagues around Yorkshire. I loved the game, and I believe in sports as a real driving force for good, for bringing us together and uniting us. That's the light I want to bring back here. In my professional career, probably because of my experiences, I've been motivated to help people, other people. Whether in social work, as a social worker, or working with drug users, having set up many drug services across the country and here in Yorkshire, with people who have mental health challenges, and particularly with prisoners, rehabilitated prisoners. My whole life has been about organisational change and tackling injustice. I've been fortunate also to have worked at the England and Wales Cricket Board, and my focus there was good governance and good stewardship. And also working with colleagues across the world of cricket, I helped to produce, many of you know, the South Asian Action Plan to increase engagement and participation in our game. And I spent a lot of years doing that. So it's sad where we've come to at the moment, and I need to deal with that. But so throughout my working life, I've fought against discrimination, including a major 5-year government project on tackling institutional racism in mental health care. I fundamentally believe we have good people fighting for change. From all our members, to our thousands of volunteers, to the players, to the staff, to the support staff, I'm sure together we can educate and inspire young people and communities to be the very best they can be. Inclusiveness, I suppose, runs through my blood. Inclusiveness for everybody. Yorkshire is my home, and I want to make Yorkshire County Cricket Club a place for everyone from all backgrounds. In the last few days, literally 2.5 days, I've spent much of my time speaking to as many people as possible connected to this great club. This club should be the pinnacle of English cricket, and as a proud Yorkshireman myself, it pains me to see it in this situation. I fundamentally believe there should be a period of truth and reconciliation to get to the bottom of our culture and our processes, to learn from our mistakes and re-establish trust. I think trust is a very much used word, but in my experience, once it's shaken or broken, it's very hard to regain. Trust and transparency were the key words for my tenure. I'm committed to ensuring the club is wholly inclusive and actively anti-racist and anti-discriminatory from this point onwards. A club we can be proud of as people of Yorkshire and as a nation of cricket lovers. I do ask for space and time to listen and learn in order that I can create a change that has impact, that is long-lasting, and that is authentic. It's essential that my first undertaking as chair is to listen to those who have experienced racism, experienced discrimination, experienced abuse, and to ensure their guidance is central. Their guidance is central to how we move forward as a club. I urge others to come forward to share their experience. Yorkshire County Cricket Club should be a club for everyone in Yorkshire. And we're ready to listen, we're ready to believe, and we're ready to change. I suppose while I've been speaking today, I'm acutely aware of the need for actions, not just simply words. I've only been in the role for 72 hours at best. So I ask for patience as I get to grips with the scale of the situation. I've had hundreds of messages from people from the world of cricket and beyond following my appointment. I want to thank them for their support and their heartfelt encouragement, and I apologise that I haven't managed to respond to each and every one of you, but I will do. There are many actions that we've taken since I was appointed on Friday. I want to announce that we've made the first vital step on what will be a long journey for this club. We've settled the employment tribunal case, the legal proceedings with Azeem Rafiq. Absolutely no restrictions have been placed on Azeem on what he can or cannot say about his experiences. The settlement does not involve a non-disclosure agreement. The club was wrong to have asked Azeem to agree to an NDA in the past, and he rightly refused. And we've apologised unreservedly for previously making that demand. Our offer means Azeem will be free to speak about his experiences publicly. He's free to answer any questions that are put to him when he wants, and that includes the Select Committee hearing that's scheduled for the 16th of November. Second, as I said, we need to listen. I have asked for an independent whistleblowing hotline to be set up as quickly as possible. I want to curate a safe space for people to come forward with their disclosures. I've instructed for this to be set up quickly and will report on progress by the end of this week. We want anyone who may have suffered issues to come forward, and I've noticed that some people who have come forward recently appear to have felt unable to step forward in Azeem's case. This hotline will provide us with important data as to where the specific problems lie, so that we can begin to make improvements which are desperately needed. Its independence will allow any of those who felt silenced or intimidated to come forward in a safe place. Third, I will be commissioning a specialist independent review of processes and procedures on diversity and inclusion, including discrimination against those with protected characteristics, gender, race, religion, disability. We need to look at our processes and procedures around reporting incidents of racism, abuse, discrimination, or bullying of any kind, informed by what has happened here over the past 18 months. Our fans, the cricketing world, and the wider public need to trust that we are fit for purpose and we can deal with issues in a fair and a transparent way. My aim is to work together with a range of stakeholders to do this, and this will be part of my future action plan. Fourth, in the spirit of transparency and in light of the investigations now underway, I've shared the full report with relevant parties who have a legal interest in this matter. Azeem's lawyers, the England and Wales Cricket Board, the Equality and Human Rights Commission, and the chair of the Culture, Media and Sports Select Committee. one thing that's really disturbed me this weekend, and I'm deeply troubled by it, I'm deeply troubled to have learned over the weekend that some current staff have been harassed and even received death threats. I categorically condemn this, and I hope, and I have and I will be seeking to make an appointment at the earliest opportunity with the Chief Constable of West Yorkshire to discuss this further. Nobody should feel discriminated against or abused, and that includes the staff here at Headingley. I can confirm that I've had discussions, meetings with the England and Wales Cricket Board about restoration of international cricket. We will have to demonstrate that we're addressing the root causes of the issues and that we are leading change before having any concrete conversations on that. On top of this, clearly the withdrawal of sponsors and international cricket has caused a financial hiatus. I've appointed Trevor Strain, the Managing Director at Morrison's, who is a member of the board here, as our Chair of Audit and Risk Committee. And both Trevor and I will be having conversations with sponsors in the coming days. Finally, there's much more to be done, which will become clear to me in the coming days. I'm happy to answer questions, but please be aware that I may not have answers for everything. I'm determined to make this club the beating heart of English cricket again. After 158 years, we're ready to change. We're ready to accept the past, and we're ready to become a club which people can trust to do the right thing. Thank you. I'll have to take some questions.
Thank you. We're going to start with broadcast. We'll go down with BBC Sport first.
Hi.
Something you promised size and change. We acknowledge the need for change. You have heard the comments of your predecessor, Roger Hudson, last week, who put much of the blame on the chief executive here, Mark Harper, and the director of Cricket, Martin Moxon, for not accepting the findings of the report and being part of the culture stuck in the past that he spoke about. How can you regain trust with both those gentlemen still on board?
As I said, I've been here for less than 72 hours. I said I would listen, and that means listening to everybody. I will look at what's gone on, what's happened. I will seek independence, help on that. And I will make the right decisions in the coming days once I've assessed the evidence. My whole life is about look at the evidence, listen to people, and then make the right decision.
If I may,
yeah.
You shared the report. Have you had a chance to look through the full report? And if so, what do you think of what you found in it?
I will be honest, I've not managed to read it in the manner in which I want to do, quietly, for several hours, and read and digest it and understand it. But what I've seen so far does make me feel uncomfortable, makes me feel that the process wasn't as well complete as it should have been. And as I said, I think there was a way of looking at individuals and people, and as opposed to looking at the bigger picture, the system. What did all that add up to? What does that mean on a systemic basis? So I think I do need, that's what it needs, seismic change.
Will you publish that report?
I have, as I said, I've published the report, or I've shared the report with those with a legal interest, and I think the Equality and Human Rights Commission have an absolute legal interest, and they've asked me to share it with them. I believe the Chair of the Select Committee should have it, and the England and Wales Cricket Board, of course, should have it as our governing body, and Azeem's lawyer should have it. I think they have an interest, a legal interest in the report. think that giving it to the people who have a legal interest, it will be important for them to be able to read it and reflect on it and make decisions before I just go and publish it.
Lord Patel, sorry, you talked a lot about regaining trust, which is obviously key. Can you see really regaining that trust unless you have a whole new leadership team in place? Anyone saying to me in the past, you're never going to get that trust back.
I think you make a very valid point, and I don't want to keep saying as I said, but as I said, I do need time to reflect and speak to people and listen and hear what's happened. I take on board absolutely, when trust like this has been shattered, you really need to look at, inevitably leadership is important in any of those circumstances, but I need to look across the system. I need to look at how people behaved, what made that happen, and where we need to go next. I'm conscious of time, and I need to do that quickly because, one word's only goes so far, to regain trust, as I've said, very hard to rebuild. And all I can show you is that I will look in great detail, I will look at what's happened, I will listen to people, and I will act. But I will act with others, not just by myself.
Is it your instinct that this club is institutionally racist?
That's why I've been appointed, because of the charge of institutional racism. That's what I intend to look at carefully. That's what the Equality and Human Rights Commission will, they're the experts and they will investigate this. And that's why I made that report available to them as soon as they asked for it, in its entirety.
And where do you think events of the last week have left the club's relationship with the South Asian community?
We two things, I think. Of course it's difficult, and people have said, you're here for everybody, cricket's again for everybody, is it again for me? Of course. The positiveness in this, the light in this, is there was a march outside here, I believe, on Saturday afternoon. People didn't come here baying for blood, they came here for change, and they said they will support us if we're truthful, and we're transparent, and I want to work with those people. And everybody to regain that trust. We're all Yorkshire people. This might be not as white as it is, but you can tell from my accent I'm a through and through Yorkshireman, and so there. Everybody. And it's not just about the South Asian community. It's about all communities. It's about the kid from the working class estate who says, oh, that's not a place for me, I can't afford to come in here. It's about young girls who say cricket's full of macho men. It's about everybody, and that's what I want to do, to make it again for everybody, genuinely.
And what would you say to former high-profile players who played for this club, who in the past may believe that they've crossed the line when it comes to the language they've used? What would you say to them as part of this process? You said like a whistleblower. Yeah. And what about the players who may be reflecting on their own behaviour? What would you say to them?
Well, more than what I'm going to say to them is I'm going to, one of my first priorities is to go see these players, see all the players, because it's what we come here for, to watch the players, and I need to listen to them as well. I'm sure many of them have reflected on what's happened in the past and they've thought about what's going on. Chat to me, and I will chat to them, and let's see where it goes.
Channel 4, please.
Lord Patel, hello.
Hi.
Hiya. I appreciate that you are only 72 hours into the job.
Sure.
But from what you know so far, and you've talked a lot about pride, about being a proud Yorkshireman.
Yeah.
Is this a club that you can be proud of?
It's a club that I'm going to be proud of.
But right now?
Right now, it's difficult to stand here and say I'm proud that Yorkshire County Cricket Club is on the front page of every newspaper for the wrong reason. That's very difficult. and it's difficult to, you know, when this is a place you've grown up, you know, when I grew up watching Park Avenue, you know, when, you know, Yorkshire were there. That's tough, but we're going to be proud of it this moment onwards, because we're going to accept that wrong decisions have been made. I need to just look at the detail of all those wrong decisions and when we can go forward today. But I have to be proud of the club. Otherwise, what's the use of me sitting here? I have to believe that this is going to be the best place on earth to play cricket and watch cricket. Otherwise, what am I doing here?
And I appreciate you're saying you've not read the report yet in full properly, given it time, but that you've been talking to people. In these 72 hours, have you spoken personally to Azeem Rafiq?
I spent about 6.5 hours speaking to Azeem Rafiq. And it was difficult. It was actually quite sad. It was tough for me. It was incredibly tough for him. And you did feel, why would we do this to any human being? You know, why would we end up in a position where this young man is, you know, has faced these challenges, and they're tough challenges. But that goes for some of the staff here who've had sleepless nights because they've had death threats, and you know, and you know, you wouldn't wish this on anybody, and it can't happen again. Thank you.
To move forward, having had that conversation, do you need to bring him in some way back into this club?
I've personally asked him to sit on my shoulder and challenge me on what I do. He had a lot of things to say, a lot about cricket. That, you know, I love cricket, but you know, I'm not here for my cricketing skills, or you know, I'd like to think I was, but you know, I'm not. He has phenomenal cricket intelligence. He has phenomenal understanding of what's happened. My understanding is this was never about him and other individuals. It wasn't about a particular player. It was about the system, the structures, the processes, the fact that we just missed the obvious. So yes, look, he's going to need time to reflect and think. You know, I'm not going to say come and buy, you know, but I would hope after, you know, he's played here, he was captain here. It would be a shame not to work together and to seek his help to find a way forward.
Are there individuals that are still here that will have to go for him to feel he can come back in?
I'm sure he feels that. And all I could do to assure him was to say what I've said to you all. I need to look at the evidence, I need to listen, I need to learn. You know, I hope I'm a kind and passionate man, having been a social worker a lot of my life and worked with some of the most vulnerable people in society, but I'm not shrinking by it if somebody's done wrong. And you know, if somebody here thinks that Paki or any other such word is banter, then the front door's down there.
And just finally, what about his sister, who also has claimed that not against the club, but about the foundation? She's also clearly feels she's not been treated correctly.
Yeah, and you know, she'll be one of the first people I'll be speaking to. I've had the pleasure of actually being with his sister, I think, on some of on your shows. You know, she's a dynamic, from my knowledge, what she did at Leicester with Asian women, and going out there and working and being passionate. That's what it's all about. So, you know, if there's a complaint there, if there's an issue there, if the people here now, I'm going to deal with it, but that helpline will be set up ASAP and will be independent.
So,
yeah.
Tom Holland from Sky News. The evidence against certain players is there, and for some it's just allegations that have been denied. Can any players who have been found to have been racist continue to
It's a great question, isn't it? I suppose I just have to look a few months back with what happened with Ollie Robinson and England cricket. Depends what context, who did what, when, what did it mean, what does it mean for them now? I think by going back to the question, what do the players think about it now? There was a process that was undertaken then. I think it was a very good process that was undertaken, so why wouldn't I use that process in the same manner here? That was done by the governing body. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that's what I would want to do.
Well, the interpretation of the players perhaps has been wrong in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. And
So how can that be used as a barometer in the future?
And I suppose I go back to the, you know, a moment in time somebody did something. If it was abhorrent and they recognise it was, they need to think about their own futures and what they're going to do. And as I've said, if they think what they did was banter or it was just mates, then there isn't a place for them here. If they reflect on it and it was a moment where they, you know, as Ollie Robinson did, said, I realise I've made a big mistake, and he was sanctioned and he was disciplined. I suppose, you know, it's not just about cricket and players, it's, you know, in any employment. You're going to take action on discriminatory behaviour. You know,
People will still look at the context. Can you say today this will be a zero tolerance club?
Yeah.
Discrimination.
Yeah, you know, the fact that I'm sat here, if it's not a zero tolerance club, we've got a real problem. You know, I'll fail miserably if it's not a zero tolerance club. And it's not just Yorkshire, every club, every first class county, every, you know, I shouldn't use the word minor counties anymore, but every other county, you know, all, you know, cricket and all sports should be zero tolerance. We'll all have to work on that. That's not going to happen overnight. I wouldn't be as pretentious to think I'm going to sit in and say, yeah, it's zero tolerance, everybody's going to behave themselves tomorrow. We're going to have to go on a journey. People have to understand why it's zero tolerance. I'm sure the majority of people here wouldn't think he's in the House of Lords and he says racism marred his life all the time. You know, skinheads chased him when he was a young lad. They need to. My belief is we have to take people on a journey. If you want to come on the journey, if you don't, and you're not wanting to take part in it, then don't. But I'm a social worker. I believe human beings change. I believe people can go on a journey, and I believe everybody can change. If I didn't, I would have been working with drug users or people locked up in prison cells.
And will the club have to punish those players who...
I think appropriate sanctions, where necessary, will have to happen. Like in any sphere of life.
Were you surprised, Lord Patel, that there were no actions taken against anybody, given that Rafiq was found to have suffered racial harassment?
Yeah, yes, I was surprised. But I don't know the processes and procedures that took place. I feel instinctively that, you know, the process was flawed, the investigation, the manner in which it was done, you know, wasn't right. You don't have a whistleblower. You know, I spent a lifetime helping the mental health world employ people called Freedom to Speak Up Guardians. Full-time people where a staff member could go to speak up, and, you know, because they wanted a whistleblower, and we had to deal with it. Here we had a whistleblower, and what did we do? We did the opposite of what we should have done.
So are you referring to witnesses not coming forward and cooperating?
I think witnesses clearly, you know.
So if someone like Michael Vaughan, for example, didn't engage in the process, he said he can get the legal assurances his supervisors required to do so. What would you say to Michael Vaughan and others who didn't engage in the process?
Please engage in the process now, because I'll ensure that it's done in a fair and an appropriate manner. Look, I'm not a legal expert, but I'll make sure there will be a legal expert supporting me with it.
Chris, thank you.
Hi, Lord Patel.
Hi.
Hi. There are thousands of young talented cricketers throughout diverse communities within Yorkshire. Why should any of them want to represent this county now?
Because they're our future. Because this is their home, as it is my home. And, you know, in the next years to come, I want to find the next Joe Root, the next Tendulkar, the next Kohli, the next Babar Azam here playing for Yorkshire. And what I'm saying to those young people is the door's wide open. And if we make mistakes along the way, we'll listen to you and we'll change. But come and live your dreams here. Why should you go somewhere else? Why should you have to go somewhere else? This club is for everybody who's in Yorkshire. And beyond. You know, I would expect a few lads from Surrey and elsewhere to come, because this is going to be the best cricket club in the world.
You've called for patience, but given the length of the original investigation, is there a timeline on this, and will you be speaking to all the current players, including those that are away on international duty?
I want to speak to every player, personally, and those away on international duty, you know, when the time's right for them, and I can, you know, speak to them. Absolutely, yes. I want to do this as diligently as possible. I don't want to rush it, but I'm very conscious. And you've seen, hopefully, from the last 48 hours that I've tried to get on with things. The longer this goes on, the more damage it causes for all of us. So, you know, what do they say? Haste not speed, but, you know, I want to get on with it.
We're going to open it up now to anyone to raise a hand.
Yes, please.
Hi.
Can I just ask a couple of questions? One, are the Chief Executive, Mark Foxton and the Chief Executive, are they both actively participating in running the club at the moment?
I came in about an hour and a half ago, and they're running the club. Yeah, I'm not at this moment in time, but I'm here now. But I'm not. I'm a chair, and yeah, I might need to take some executive duties clearly, but yeah.
I just want to ask you on a broader level.
Yeah.
Do you think, not just Yorkshire Cricket Club, but Yorkshire Cricket generally, Premier League, which you play?
Yes.
Do you think there's racism problems there too?
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I've played in every single league here: Halifax League, Colorado League, you know, Wharfdale League, York Trafford League, Sundays. And I've made the best of friends through that. I've played with some amazing people, and I've had a network and of people that have that written to me, and people who played with me that I don't even remember they've written to me to help. So, but it's not about saying racism exists in these cricket clubs. Racism exists in society. This is, we've had Black Lives Matters, we've had, we've had Me Too, and it's not just about racism. It's, what really upsets me, sorry, I'm probably going off what you asked me, but we've just been through the most horrific year and a half. We had a virus that was killing people. And what did you see in those dark times? And we've all suffered from it. The hundreds, literally, I think 10 million people volunteered. So there's goodness in people, and we do lots of things. Sorry, I went off the subject there a bit, but I think it's an important.
Hi, Lord Patel.
Hi.
Ben Rumsley from the Daily Telegraph
Hi.
newspaper. Just want to clarify Mark Arthur and Martin Moxon, the situation with them. Are you saying that neither of them are currently on leave, whether that's compassionate or otherwise? They're still working, as far as you're aware?
As far as I'm aware.
And Roger Hudson pointed the finger at the ECB in his resignation statement, very critical of the lack of help he said he got there. Do you think the ECB has a case to answer in all this? And also, you were on the board of the ECB for 5 years.
Yes.
And including some of this period in question, do you believe you as a board member have questions to answer about this?
if any of these allegations had come before the ECB board when I was there, I'd have been the first to jump in and tackle it. I don't know the details of Roger's concerns. I do know the ECB is a governing body, and I don't know, for a layman's terms, you know, we've got 18 separate businesses that deal with, you know, their own HR policies. I don't think the ECB is a governing body and a regulator. But I don't know the detail of it, and I think that's for the ECB to answer, really, to Roger.
Sorry, one more question.
Yeah.
Do you think these kinds of investigations in future, if this was to happen at Yorkshire or another club, should be actually taken out of the hands of the club and conducted by the regulator?
No, not necessarily. It depends, you know. So I'm a chairman of a regulator. I've set up 4 regulators for government. There's very specific responsibilities a regulator has, and where the line does cross, and where, you know, if it happens in a hospital, you know, my first response is the management deals with it, chief exec deals with it, and if he or she doesn't deal with it, the board and the chair deal with it. It doesn't come to a regulator at that time. And that's almost abdicating responsibility.
George was that, so.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, George. Sorry.
George?
Thank you. A couple of quick ones, if I may,
Yeah.
please. Firstly, Yorkshire are quite heavily in debt at present. Who is paying for the decisions you're making at the moment? Is it Colin Graves? Is it the ECB? I just wondered where the funding's coming from. And secondly, the current coaching staff, are they right now working in identifying and nurturing the next generation of talent, or have they been suspended at present?
As far as I know, nobody's been suspended in current coaching staff. To your question about whether they're nurturing and harnessing talent, I'd love to look at that and talk to them about how we might do that better maybe, and what the shortcomings, if any, and what can we do to improve, because that's not a standstill. Your question about money, nobody's paying for it at the moment. I've been asked to come here to make changes. I will need resources to make those changes. And those are the discussions I'll be having with the England and Wales Cricket Board, and I don't know what the financial situation is here. I need to look at it.
Is it a bit complicated that Colin Graves is a huge fundraiser here? He still probably controls the purse strings, doesn't he?
His family trusts have a chunk of money wrapped up in here. It doesn't control any purse strings for me.
He's got a veto on who goes on the board, though, doesn't he?
He doesn't. His 2 trustees have. If I go through an independent process with the right procedures, and I appoint, not I, we, the board appoint new board members, somebody's going to have a hell of a good reason why they're going to veto that.
They're not the trust appoint you, Lord?
No, absolutely not. Friday afternoon, there was Trevor Stray, who's current non-exec. Hanif Malik was at that time a non-exec director, and Neil Hartley was a non-exec director. They voted me in to be a non-exec director. Then they voted me in to be the chair. Subsequently, Hanif Malik resigned, so we were still quorum with 3 people. And Neil Hartley wishes to step down, and I'm very grateful for him to be staying where he is until I can ensure that we're corporate. My understanding is the Constitution allows 2 non-execs to be appointed, you know, until the next AGM, of course, and then it has to be done, you know, to be quorum, and then it'll have to be done in the proper process. Sorry, you were asking that.
You said earlier that you settled the tribunal case with Mr. Rafiq. Does that mean that he's been compensated with payments?
I feel it's not appropriate for me to disclose that here. He has been compensated, and that's up to the legal people at this moment in time.
Lord Patel, Richard Daily Mail, you mentioned before about the
financial state of affairs in your initial address and the sponsors. How confident would you be to resurrect any of the deals that you've lost with the sponsors and commercial partners recently, given this change? And what would your message be to potential other sponsors, given how important sponsorship is for a cricket club?
You hit the nail on the head. Key question. I have a meeting with one of the sponsors at 5:30 today, so that's the first one. I'm going to be meeting all the sponsors. I'm going to have to assure them there's going to be change, and hopefully they will work with me and see that change happen rapidly. And of course, we'll be looking at every single sponsor and get my hands on. I think somebody asked earlier about the South Asian community. Come on, folks, get members and join.
Can you say who the sponsor is that you're seeing?
It would be not appropriate for me to say that.
But you're clearly determined to the branches that have been cut off. You want to try and generate.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, 100%. Why wouldn't I? Because of course, if you were a commercial company and this is going on, you're going to think twice. But you need assurance. You need more than assurance. You need some actions, and you need to be assured that they're not going to be in a place like this ever again.
Do you have a timeline? I know you said you want to take your time, but do you have a timeline for when you think you can go back to the ECB and revisit the sanctions that were placed upon the club last week? Because financially, that's a real hamster, aren't you?
Yeah, and that's why I'm going to be working night and day to get the processes and procedures in place, and to get the right leadership and quality in place, and the governance processes, and keep going back to the ECB until they're assured that change is happening and will happen, and what's being put in place is absolutely working.
Have they given you any guidance on what that change, what constitutes that change?
Broadly, I think, to ensure the right leadership is in place, to ensure the full high quality governance in place. I don't feel too uncomfortable about that, having helped the ECB write their own governance guidelines, and a whole series of other issues, which I'm going to have to sit and explore with them.
Okay, we're going to do Rory and then a couple more after that.
Thanks.
So,
Hi, Rory.
Hi, Rory.
Here. I just wonder what your message would be to some of the Yorkshire fans. They do exist. They're out there on social media, among other places, who don't accept what you have accepted today about the past. Something and nothing, storming a teacup. Those are the kind of words you hear. I just wonder, do those people, individuals, have a place in your new version of Yorkshire?
They're already they have a place here. As I said, I think previously, if they can...
If they can't accept it, ultimately, do you not want those people involved?
I want to take them on a journey with me. I'd probably prefer to meet them. I'm not going to go meet everybody because I won't have the time. I would if I could. I mean, when I set my last regulator up, I saw 3,500 people in 2 months. And that was, I'm happy to listen, and I'm happy to justify, and I'm happy to explain why my position is such. That doesn't mean people can't say to me I'm wrong and this is what their views are. But walking away at a time when we need you is not what we need you to do at the moment. If we're going to make Yorkshire, the best county cricket club in the world, they need to be part of that.
Last couple.
Yeah. In 2019, £13.5 million of Yorkshire's £18 million income came from international matches,
right,
and commercial sponsorship. How deep is the financial crisis facing the club at the moment, and is there any risk of insolvency or administration?
I can't tell you exactly because I need to speak to the chair of the audit risk about that and to the finance director here and look at that. I'm sure we're under strain, and goes back to the other question. That's why I'm going to be going hell for leather to get those sponsors back, commercial deals, and get international cricket back here, because I don't even want to think about the idea that this place is going to go insolvent.
the test match is only a few months away. It's a long time. You haven't got long to turn it around, have you?
I'm going to work 24/7 to make sure I turn that round and get the assurances that England and Wales Cricket Board need here in place. You're right. It's got to be done quickly now.
Sorry, Jamie, last one.
Lord Patel there,
Hi,
Jamie
Jamie.
Rainer, Radio Leeds. You talk about rebuilding that relationship with the fans. We've had a lot of cricket lovers get in touch with us over the last week, talk about how let down they feel about the actions that have been taken by this club. How do you go about rebuilding that relationship and that trust?
My inbox, just over this weekend, there's about 500 unread emails. I've looked at the headings so I know where they've come from. My mobile text box and my WhatsApp is full, and many hundreds of those people are people who are fans of Yorkshire cricket that I don't know, that have emailed me or texted me or WhatsApped me and said, we'll help you and we'll support you, just get on with it and make change. So I'm going to reach out to all of them and individually build everybody, but an army of us, you know, the thousands of people that volunteer together. You know, my job is to try and bring them together and help me to do that.